Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to TRTM for tonight's coverage of Season 6, Round 1 of the NLRL Sunday League for the first time, now powered by TRTN. As always, I'm Regan Clark, and it's time to do it all over again then as we round into this 6th season of the NLRL Sunday League, and we start off our journey on a brand new calendar with new faces and a brand new event structure to boot right here at the home of the Belgian Grand Prix, a track that has seen over 100 years of racing history since its founding in 1921, the largest of the Grade 1s. We're here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Founded in 1921, comprised of 20 turns and a staggering 4.3 miles of FIA Grade 1, the home of the Belgian Grand Prix is to serve up a fantastic venue for fighting today here at the opening 2 races of the NLRL Sunday League Season 6, and we'll get more on into that in just a moment's time. We follow on board now with Ben Hart, rookie no longer, as he makes his way into the mainline category for this season. Taking a look then in towards what is a whole new sleuth of regulations for this season. Significant reforms then to the structure of how this event has been ran, starting things off then with the revamp of the success ballast. That's been reworked for Season 6 now to see a decay system introduced, whereby finishing P6 or lower will start to see weight shifted away from the car instead of a static climb, where we saw towards the end of last season drivers like Carlos Diesch and Cas van Velzen, who were in the runnings for that championship, ended up 30 to nearly 40 kilos heavier than every other car on the field by default. Also coming in then, a brand new event structure, and the new standard format is as follows: the introduction of a 20-minute sprint race and a 40-minute feature race, both of which featuring a mandatory pit stop on open strategy. Right now, though, it's the same preliminary structure beforehand, with 10 minutes of free practice, of which you join us in the midst of at the moment, and then coming up around the corner, 20 minutes of qualifying that will dictate both grids for both the sprint and feature race. Taking a look over our shoulder then to see, after 55 races of the NLRL Sunday League, what became of Season 5 Round 10 at the finale. Well, Cas van Velzen became Season 5's champion, Carlos Diesch became its rookies champion, and Hayden Prodger became the 18th unique name to add to the winners list here at the NLRL Sunday League, which had seen first-time wins for both Carlos Diesch, Fake Galaxy, and Michael Harris before that point. Also seeing wins in the early part for Cas van Velzen and Melvin Milliston, as well as a single win that season at Round 5 for Tyler Vermaak. It was a fantastic season then, coming away from Round 5 and heading into a new era then. We have a lot to get underway. Taking a look then at those wins from last season, we can see how it all ranks up there. Bentley got their first ever win as a manufacturer, and we had the first Lexus win in 3 seasons since the infamous run to the Season 2 championship for Jason Bush. It was Michael Harris to win in Donington Park amidst one of the best races of the season. We also got to see the first Swiss and first Austrian winners in Sunday League history with Carlos Diesch and Fake Galaxy. Taking a look then onto BOP listings for today, a bit of a limited list as data has been a bit on the funkier end to try and locate, but taking a look at what we have, Bentley loses 18 kilos for the run into today's race, with Mercedes and Aston Martin shedding 7 kilos. Lamborghini lose 6 kilos, I should say, and then gaining 6 kilos is Porsche. Audi gained 4 kilos as they joined the grid courtesy of Carlos Diesch and Fake Galaxy, both of which now driving for Euro Titans Endurance, the now reigning team's champions, and both of which having moved over to Audi. Ferrari gained 6 kilos, McLaren gaining 8, and Ford once again on the short end of the stick for 22 kilos of additional ballast. Now, taking a look around the field, plenty of new faces and familiar names making their way into the Reserves and Rookies Championship respectively. We see here with drivers like Danny Felix, a driver we've seen over on Fats GT, and there'll be plenty more drivers that we've recognised from other championships. We see a brand new name on our radar here in that of Michal Kovar in the number 22. We want to try and get a look on board here with some of the major roster changes. So taking a look all the way around what is a whole new sleuth of names that we'll get to know and understand over the course of the season. We see here Carlos Diesch, your rookies champion from last season, has moved to Audi, and such was the same story there for Fake Galaxy. The now twin Audis of the Euro Titans Endurance team mark their entry to the field. We get to see here, this is Manuel Winkler, also a new driver on the list and also driving for Audi. So we're seeing a growing number of V10s on this grid, and we get to see here for the first time in 4 seasons, Ian Skeen is back to Aston Martin. Of course, his Season 2 run gave him his one and currently only win in the NLRL Sunday League at Bathurst. Now he returns to Aston Martin. Instead of the 696, he's now clad in the 991. Taking a look then around the order, as we've got plenty of names to get underway. We also see the return to the grid here for George Todd of Malwar Racing. Since their full withdrawal from competition in the Sunday League last season, Todd back on the grid after 2 seasons away. Alan Alexander moves to Bentley. Michael Harris now up into the mainline category after his win in Donington Park last season. You see there, of course, Deesh with Audi, Skeen with Aston Martin, but there's also the elephant in the room. Your Season 5 champion, currently obscured by the pit wall, is back in one of his most dangerous bits of machinery, the Porsche 911 992. His most infamous run was Season 3 in his 3-way split with Millerstone and Vermac for the championship, and his driving style was so unique, so boisterous, so in your face. The race control team had to introduce rules to stop him from doing what he was doing week on week. He was simply that crazy of a driver. Well, he's now the defending drivers champion. And taking a look back through the history of this series as we're heading into the last couple of minutes now of free practice. Taking a look through the last couple of champions in the NLRL Sunday League, Cas van Velzen added his name to the ring in his time with BMW, ahead of what was a double championship streak for Melvin Millerstone with both McLaren and BMW. We also saw back in Season 2, Jason Bush win with Lexus and Christian LeBay, the first ever champion with Aston Martin. Looking into the teams championships as well, to find now a third unique name on that list. Euro Titans absolutely powerhoused Season 5's Teams Championship, taking all of the runnings there away from Velocity and 5-Star Esports in their run towards Championship glory in Season 5. They'll be on a high alert, really, for the run into this season, as they now have a sizable target on their backs. So as we see here with Van Velzen down at Lacombe and Melmedy, we'll get into qualifying in just a moment's time. But before we do, one look here at the calendar. Of course, those of you who joined us in Alton Park a few weeks ago would have seen the calendar reveal live on stream, where we were joined by Cas van Velzen and Carlos Deesh deciding Season 6's calendar with the infamous wheel. But what we have here is quite the star-studded lineup. Spa, your first round of the season, and then we get to see the new sprint format, which sees 3 races instead of 2, coming up in Indianapolis next week. And before we get out of the month of May, we'll be heading to Silverstone on round 3 of the championship. I'm sure what everyone is curious to know then is that 4th round of the season. The first time ever in Sunday League history we'll go racing at the Green Hell. The Nürburgring Nordschleife comes up at round 4 of the championship, with Donington Park returning to the calendar again after its brilliant bout last season for round 5, now just before the midway. Barcelona on the calendar for round 6, Imola round 7, Bathurst round 8, Red Bull Ring for round 9, and Monza will be our finale spot on the 26th of July. It is going to be a fantastic season ahead of us. Plenty of new names then joining us, as we see on the timing charts at the moment. Brand new driver Daniel Costa in the Rookies Championship. We've got a few sign-ups here with Bern, Rayfeld and Felix, all of which reserves later to be categorised as rookies as the slots open up later this season. Richard Claffey, a driver we've seen recently over on HCCL and even before that over on AXRL, now makes his Sunday League debut in the Rookies. We see that John O'Driscoll is now firmly up into the main category after what was a reserve-turned-rookie bout in Season 5. And as we saw before, Michael Kovar, new driver to the field, Vinicius Gois. This is an interesting one here. We saw him over on the GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series by Competizione Performance League. And now we get to see him in GT3. Moreover, we get to see him on the Sunday League grid. This is going to be an interesting one to watch. And he's not alone, really, in the assertion of drivers who could really do some serious damage on this field in terms of their straight line speed and pace. Taking a look here to find Patrick Leger, a driver who's a mainstay over at Fatch GT, is on this grid in the Rookies Championship, and just before today's session was looking very fast and would be looking in towards his performance in qualifying just around the corner. Still plenty of names to get through, and I'm sure we'll get through all of them in due course. At the end of free practice then, just before the run in towards qualifying, it's Carlos Deesh, fastest for Euro Titans. George Todd by 72 thousandths in second place. Ian Skeen currently third. Michael Harris of Team FBR in fourth. It's Alan Alexander who rounds out that top 5. Fastest of the rookies right now is Konstantinos Chitos in the number 4 Kafrovic Racing Team Lamborghini. Alexander to the line, stays in that 5th place spot at the end of this session. Daniel Costa makes that second fastest in the rookies right now. As he makes his way down towards the line here, coming up just around the corner then, we'll get to see a brand new bit of stream overlay, and I'm quite excited to debut these. It's a very minor thing, but I think it's going to help for rewatching and replayability on these streams, because it's going to help you at home figure out where on earth you are in the broadcast. Because, of course, now with multiple races, we've got to start distinguishing them from one another, just so that you don't get lost in the process of maybe skipping through and not figuring out really which race you're on. So DaCosta at the end of this session, second among the rookies. Harris back in the pit lane. Rayfeld also in. You see for Mikhail Kovar, he's down towards Campus and Stabilo at this time. Nearest the line, as it would appear, is the number 33. That would be Vinicius Goyce of Team VGN. As of yet uncategorized on the timing charts. We'll see, though, if that's liable to change. Down across the line goes the McLaren. Sadly, no time set there for Goyce, but he'll have plenty of time over the course of qualifying that will dictate both grids for the sprint and feature race. Next across the line, number 99. That'll be for Elias De Vos of Hispania Racing. Down across the line there, finishes 24th. No time set for him in free practice, but of course qualifying just up and around the corner, so not too much fuss there. Kovar last to the line before qualifying, the first quali of the season then, and it's going to yield what I have on good authority to assume is a very exciting result to follow. Let's all see how it all unfolds then. Across the line goes Kovar as we're in to qualifying.
Green light. Go, go, go.
Qualifying then officially underway. 20 minutes of quali here in Spa. And first out the gates is Carlos Dish. Right behind him is Ian Skeen. And Euro Titans, with a sizable target on their backs, are not looking to play around in Season 6. They've got quite a lot of weight to carry with them for the run in towards this season. And let's see if we can go and catch on board then with that leading Audi for our track tour of the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, as we see out in force right behind them then. John O'Driscoll flanked by George Todd and Ben Hart. So taking a look into that qualifying predictions. Now, it's a bit loose around the edges here as the data has been so-and-so for the run into today's ramble. What it shows us is an Audi 1-2 for Faye Galaxy and Carlos Dish. It also shows one of the new drivers in the Rookies Championship, Jonathan Polini, in third place overall. He's up and ahead of Tyler Vermack, and Elias De Vos rounds out the top 5 on predictions. Jenkins in 6th, Cheeseman in 7th, Alexander in 8th, Chitos in 9th, and Nikolai rounds out the top 10. Now, it's going to be an interesting one to discuss, because we saw, at least for the last couple of days leading into this event, it was a case that weather was on the changeable end, but right now things look nice and dry for the drivers, so definitely the chances to see even faster times emerge from the leading fray here. On board then with Carlos Dish, now driving for Audi, away from what was a brilliant drive for him last season, was very nearly within the shot of an overall championship from a rookie standpoint. Now moves away from Ford to Audi for this season. You can see wearing the silver star next to the Swiss flag, signifying his Rookies Championship title. With Ian Skeen flanking him from behind, now returning to Aston Martin. It really does seem to be the case here with their changes to the roster and their additions of Dish and now Galaxy having officially moved away from 5-Star Esports after spending the rest of Season 5 alongside the team. But it really does seem to be the case here. Euro Titans are firing on all cylinders. So then down through La Source, and this is actually where the race is going to start now, just after turn 2, as we're on to the flying lap, the first flying lap of Season 6. Right here from Carlos Dish, as we make our way into the most infamous climb section of any racetrack around the world, Eau Rouge and Radio on turns 3, 4 and 5. This has been a real whiplash sector for a lot of drivers so far. We've noticed, especially in the case of the Audis and the Porsche of Van Velzen, considerable stability issues on the run uphill. They're really going to be sort of crossing their fingers as they go up through that hill, down the Kemmel Straight, in towards turns 7, 8 and 9 at Lacombe and Melmedy. And this will represent another major overtaking opportunity for the drivers that follow through at the Kemmel. A good run right up to the back end. We've seen plenty of drivers go for it on the inside down at turn 7. We're down here at Bruxelles, turn 10. This open hairpin right, also a good overtaking spot. It does bank on the driver ahead of you, having the worse off line down through turn 11. The no-name corner as we make our way into sector 2 proper, down towards Pouan. So far, so good then for the Swiss talent. And Carlos Disch really fired up for today's performance. He, of course, has a bone to pick, really, with that championship title. Was so close last season. Came home with the Rookies Championship, but nearly had the full pot there of everything when it came to the Drivers' Championship outright. We've just got word the 315 has, I believe, yes, been disqualified. So that is, I believe... yes, I think it is Alan Alexander, the 315, the Bentley from Eurotitans. We make our way out through the curb of Paul Frere, up towards Blanchemont. Another very fast section here of the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. There's some lovely contrast between sectors 1 and 3 and that middle sector. That's sector 2. Out through Blanchemont to the bus stop chicane. Turns 19 and 20 here for Carlos Disch. Right behind him then, Ian Skeen, as we make our way onto the timing charts here. The first 2 times in from the 54 and the 991. So Disch to be our baseline time, and across the line he goes to a 2:16.905 from behind him. 1.1 seconds off the mark there was Ian Skeen. Then we see George Todd up to second from behind him. I believe that is Vinicius Goyce in the background. The McLaren, sadly, no time set, but we did see one there from Ben Hart and Cas Van Velzen. Van Velzen now third. We see the addition here, the number 71, the Ford of Ladina. Now into the top 5, fourth place at the moment. And within a second of that fastest time set by Carlos Disch, number 279 across the line a moment ago. Simon Byrne went momentarily 7th, now 8th. Richard Claffey in 7th, now 8th himself, with the introduction of Fate Galaxy and Patrick Leger. Leger up to second, Galaxy to third. It's an Audi 1-3. Audi looking for their possible first wins of the season, to be the first winners of Season 6. Certainly on the charts here, but Leger isn't going to be going down without a very good fight. And what an entrance he's made then to the Rookies Championship right off the bat. If that's not put a few people in their seats, I'm not sure what has. And this is going to be a very interesting championship here for Leger. He's a driver we have very good confidence in. We've seen his antics over on Fats GT. We know the kind of caliber of a driver he is, so he'd fit in on this grid very, very nicely. Out through turn 9, down towards turn 10 at Bruxelles. He's still out on another flying lap. We'll go to catch him with the next drivers down to the line, as we already have 17 times to speak of. Nearest to the line is Elias de Vos in the number 99. We do see now joining into the session is Jonathan Polini from the paddock at the moment. It seems like a few connection troubles for him. And we did get confirmation that Alan Alexander is disqualified from this quali session. A very bizarre start then for the 315. We see here to the line goes de Vos. The 44 on his trails. That'll be looking there, Lucas Clapp. And sadly, no time set there for de Vos. We'll see, though, for Clapp if there was anything different. Yes, 17th for the 44 across the line. Number 22 nearest, Michal Kovar. We are seeing some connection troubles there for both Polini and also for Tom Barlow joining onto the Sunday League grid. Michal Kovar across the line, sadly, no time set. Number 54 nearest, so here comes Carlos Disch, 2:16.905 to beat. Across the line he goes, 675 as we see there. From behind him was Ian Skeen, 7th in the session. George Todd goes 2nd, now up and ahead of Patrick Leger. Number 33 across the line from behind him. Then the number 40. And for Ben Hart, now 11th. Number 1 across the line, Van Velzen still amongst that top 5, but struggling to make ground here on Fate Galaxy. It's Carlos Disch by a country mile in the lead of this qualifying session as we get up towards the halfway mark. Nearly 10 minutes in. Number 9 across the line there. Leger stays 3rd. Number 55 across the line, Fate Galaxy now up to 2nd. It's an Audi 1-2 here in Spa. Number 113 across the line a moment ago, Kyle Jenkins, 12th for 5 Star Esports. A whole swarm of cars in from behind him there. And from the back of that pack, now up into the top 10 goes Rayfield, I should say. Another new driver then to the field, currently listed in as one of our multiple reserves. What we see here, this is Guy Rayfield in the number 187, now amongst that top 10. Nearest the line then, we've got to catch on board with, I think it's the number 34 on its way to the line. So that'll be for Michael Harris. Now making his full-time drive in the main category, the sort of quote-unquote pro category of this season. Harris, as what happened there, 8th after that last lap. 7 thousandths away from Ian Skeen in 7th place. Very, very close indeed. Number 80 from behind. Now just across the line there, Manuel Winkler goes 18th fastest. I must say, it is a very nice livery there on that Audi. I'm getting sort of old school, almost Japanese GT championship vibes off of it. I'm not quite sure. Even I didn't even see Grade 1 DTMs at a push there. Number 99 nearest to the line, so we're about to see across the line here, Elias de Vos. Now onto the timing charts, into that top 10 right off the bat then. And from behind him was the 44. Lucas Clapp now 16th in the session. Number 54 nearest to the line, so back on once again with Carlos Disch. 2:16, 6:75 to beat. That's the current fastest time. We've seen him already go up over an original fastest. Now down towards the line. And as it would appear there, sadly, not on this occasion would there be another improvement found. But he still holds half a second over Fake Galaxy, who's on his way out of the paddock. In Skeen, down through Pouan at turn 12. Number 33 and number 1 coming across the line for Van Veltzen from 5th, now 2nd. So your Season 5 champion, Cas Van Veltzen, now back on form. It was a bit of a stutter for him at the start of this session, but we see now for Van Veltzen sporting the gold star and the number 1 for this season is on championship defense, and right now he's just been forced back down to 3rd. Leger back up to 2nd in the number 9. This is already getting to be a rather interesting season in the making already, and we only are in 10 minutes through on the first quali. So far, very, very good. You see here for Andrea Ladina, currently division 2nd amongst the rookies with Leger fastest in the rookies category. Then Vinicius Gois 3rd in division. Overall, that makes them 2nd, 6th and 7th. Speaking of Ladino, we're about to see him down to the line. Up in front of him, the 991 and the number 34. So that would have been for Ian Skeen and Michael Harris. No move there for Skeen. For Harris, he's still 7 thousandths away. Across the line then goes Ladina. And 3rd on the trot there, no found time improved. Number 23 from behind them, across the line just a moment ago. In the case here of Tom Barlow, one of the reserves for this round, now makes his Sunday League debut, the 23, out onto flying laps. You see also joining us here is Nick Bright. The Mustang Muckers team, he'll be making his rookie's debut. Of course, like Leger, we've also seen him over on Fats GT. We'll be going live with coverage of the next round of Fats GT. I believe the penultimate round we're on to, coming up this Monday. We are noting then quite a few connection troubles for quite a few drivers in the trailing end there. We saw for Ben Cheeseman, who has recently moved away from Lamborghini to McLaren, is struggling to make a connection in there on the server. An almost universal case now, really, for sim racing in any capacity. We see here one of the other new drivers on this field. This is Jakob Bodvarka in the number 125 Ferrari. Down to the line from 26th. Sadly, no time set there. From behind him was the number 80 of Winkler. Then from behind them, the number 22 and the number 1. You see from Van Veltzen down to the line. He was momentarily in the stead of 2nd, and across the line he stays in 3rd place. 8.5 minutes left to go. Number 44 is nearest, and that'll be for Lucas Clapp with Ferrari. Down across the line he goes there, stays 19th. From behind him, the number 8. And that's Tyler Vermack, staying in with McLaren then. He made that move last season. He's driven McLaren before, and he's going to stick with it by looks of things into Season 6. South African talent who took victory at Season 5, Round 5 last season, currently finds himself 6th on this grid, tucked in by about just over 2 tenths away from George Todd in 5th. Number 985 is next to the line here. That'll be for Danny Felix from 21st, as it would appear has stayed there after that last go around. 991 across the line, and Ian Skeen 7th on the grid right now. And we made a leap back up into that top 10, forces Andrea Ladina and Vinicius Gois down a peg to 8th and 9th. Number 71 across the line, that was Andrea Ladina, still 2nd in the rookies, now 8th in the session, backing up that 4th row. Number 36 is nearest to the line. And taking a look to find Nick Bright down to the line here with Mustang Muckers, number 36. Now onto another flying lap he goes. Number 40 from behind him there, just across the line once again. That would be for Ben Hart with the 5-star esports team. Number 28 across the line a moment ago. And having a glance in there, that was for Daniel Costa with McLaren, one of the new drivers in the Rookies Championship. Now, to explain for those perhaps new to the series what the Rookies Championship is, think of it more so like, for example, NASCAR. I think it's the best reference we've had for it. It's not necessarily a critique of the driver's racing ability. No, it's not based off of any kind of driver rating or skill rating or anything of that sort. It is familiarity to the grid. If it's your first season, you're going in with the rookies. If it's not, then you'll be wearing the white numbers here with all of the mainstay drivers, which we've also, in some cases, also called the Pro Division. These have been the drivers that have stuck around for more than their rookie season since it was introduced a few seasons ago. It also gives the new drivers on the field on what can be a very daunting time to enter into a season like the Sunday League with a very airtight grid to have an opportunity to fight amongst themselves in their own championship separate from the main Drivers' Championship. We see here, fastest among the rookies right now is Leger. Number 44 and number 8 across the line a moment ago. That would have been in the case of Lucas Clapp. And that of Tyler Vermack. Vermack now 6th, up and ahead of Ian Skeen. Still reluctantly stuck in behind George Todd. Number 985 is nearest. A few people are having an issue where their Xbox says it doesn't have enough video memory. Oh, no, this is a known issue here at Spa. And that would more likely than not be the case with the size of that grid, to be fair. I'm surprised it's not happened to us yet. That's a known issue with the Xbox Series S, if I'm not mistaken. The remedy to that would have been that they had to have joined very early in the session. That might also be something to consider for the Nürburgring later this season. As the thing is, and this is something I was able to find out when I was working with folks over at HCCL with their larger charity races, it was a case where the Xbox doesn't chunk render anything. It renders the whole track and everyone on it. Whereas in PC, you can have it render just parts of the track and have the rest of it unloaded when you can't see it. Whereas this has to render everything, and with obviously one of the largest tracks in the game, like Spa, or like the Nürburgring for that matter, it can be really, really high on video memory load. Less on that, more on this. Down to the line, Fake Galaxy needs 3/10 for that fastest time. Still an Audi 1-2, and across the line he goes, finds an improvement, but not for position just yet. Number 9 from behind him. Leger stays 3rd. Number 12, that's George Todd across the line onto another set of flying laps. It's great to see then members of the Malwar Racing Team return to the Sunday League after the majority of them withdrew from last season. George Todd now back after 2 seasons away. He was a capable driver in his time, and it was his insight and data that gave us the understanding of our new listings on Ferrari's top speed. We got to see a lot of his testing data from out of the Monza rounds in the last couple of seasons, where we were able to get the new understanding that the Ferrari does actually have a lot more up its sleeve than we were originally led on to. Originally, we thought the top end was about 172 miles an hour. We found out through Todd it's 174 at the best of times. Down through to the Kemmel Straight then, in towards Le Carmen Melmedy. Right now then, your 2 leading Audis, Carlos Diesch and Fake Galaxy, rookies no longer. And now full-time drives for Euro Titans, looking for a shot of their own slice of a championship. And it's an Audi 1-2 for, I believe, the first time ever in Sunday League history. Audi, a manufacturer that was on the verge of extinction from this grid. Along with Lamborghini, the V10s were going the way of the dinosaur in the last couple of seasons, but now, in the hands of these 2 very capable talents who had their own victories last season with Ford, you see the gap now forced up to a 2:16.550, so 245 thousandths between the 2 leading Audis. They now mark up the front of the field. It's going to be an interesting story ahead then for Patrick Leger. Is he going to find himself much similar in a situation to Carlos Diesch last season, where he's a rookie, but he does certainly look to be fighting amongst the land of the giants here. One of the Audis now into the pit lane. That was, I believe, yes, Fake Galaxy back into the paddock as Carlos Diesch stays out. We're in and amongst the last couple of minutes here of qualifying before we get into the sprint race. 20 minutes of racing, then the feature race thereafter. 40 minutes of racing here at round 1 of the NLRL Sunday League Season 6, powered by TRTN. Number 9 now into the paddock, and it's actually worth getting a look in here with Leger. I'm not sure how far down through the paddock he'll go. I think he might be going the full 9 yards here, so you can get a look into what's going to be a huge concern for drivers today. Of course, that mandatory pit stop is an open strategy one, so they've got to treat it almost in this case like a joker lap in rallycross terminology. It's a case where they have to come in and they're going to have to slow down quite a fair deal for the run down through this paddock. And this is the longest pit lane on ACC, bar none. There are no comparisons, I'd say, even close to this one, because they come all the way through the Grand Prix paddock, which is used for the Belgian Grand Prix in Formula 1. We make our way all the way down here, still running in parallel to the track just after turn 1. All the way down into the GT paddock, or the endurance paddock, where they will now be able to come to a stop. And then they've got to run on the exit road all the way up, parallel to Eau Rouge and Radion at a snail's pace, and are then released just onto the Kemmel just after turn 6. So it's an incredibly long paddock that the drivers will be quite afraid of when it comes to their strategy today. Now, we'll see in shorter tracks, in much smaller tracks, that this strategy is not too bad at all. Having that mandatory pit stop in a 20-minute race is more than likely going to split things down the middle. But note that there's not been any pit window introduced. It's to keep things as open as possible for the drivers. Deesh down to the line, 2:16.550 to beat, stays that fastest time onto his last flying lap of today. Carlos Deesh back with a vengeance then, the Swiss talent, fastest among the fray right now, and could very well put another notch in the history books, as he could become the first ever driver to win with Audi. But of course, we have 2 opportunities to see that change for that front row. Number 23 crossed the line a moment ago. From behind them was the number 80, I believe there. You see in the case here, another Audi on the grid, Winkler. On his way out through turn 1. Number 113 is nearest, and it'll be the first to end their session, as it would be on track, as now making his way back into the pit lane goes Kyle Jenkins of 5-Star Esports. Number 12 is nearest, so here comes George Todd. Down towards the line then, here in the first ever quali of Season 6. Where does Todd find himself? Currently among the top 5, but can he go north of it? Across the line he goes and finds himself up to 3rd, so a great turnaround for Maloir Racing Ferrari, the Season 3 Teams Champions. Now back on form with George Todd on that second row. Starts on to a podium for both races. We'll see what he can make of it over the course of the race they're in. Jakob Vodvarka across the line, 19th. At the end of this session, turns a 20th into a 19th, their upper position just at the end of quali. Number 22 to the line, Mikhail Kovar. And from behind him, the 279 of Simon Byrne. And Byrne goes 21st, now ahead of Lucas Clapp, who is in turn making his way down through to the bus stop chicane. Down to the line then goes Clapp. Currently 22nd. Can he go back up and ahead of Byrne? Not this time around. He'll stay there at the end of this session. Next to the line, the number 8, Tyler Vermack with 5-Star Esports McLaren. Can he go up and ahead of Ian Skeen at the end of this session? Sadly, not this time. He'll find himself backing up onto the 4th row alongside Michael Harris. He's 7th at the end of the first quali of the season. Nearest to the line is the number 40, being Ben Hart, part of the 5-Star Esports Academy team. And now in his main stage championship title debut. Away from the rookies division, out through Blanchimont. And then the driver from behind him, who will be last to the line in this qualifying session, the number 36, Nick Bright with Ford. You see for Hart there a bit of a wobble down through turns 19 and 20. We'll see where he finds him at the end of this session, across the line from 18th, and stays there. So as we just saw from Bright, either a retirement of the lap or it was an invalidation of the lap. But that is the end of qualifying for the first time this season, and what a quali it has been for the drivers today. A fantastic one for the Euro Titans team, the defending champions of the Teams Championship, now met with the first ever team to take the Teams Championship in the form of George Todd for Maloir Racing Ferrari. It's Audi on pole position and on the front row, a total lockout for the R8, with Ferrari backing them up on the second row. Leger on his rookie's debut, 4th overall in the session, and leading the rookies by a country mile there, was up 8/10 over Andrea Ladina, who's 2nd in division, 9th overall. We'll get the full grid up in just a moment's time. But before we do, taking a look back into the regulations for today's event on what has been a fantastic quali. Coming up then, the sprint race for the first time ever on the brand new standard format. 20 minutes of racing to follow here in Spa. And the feature race thereafter for 40 minutes, a single mandatory pit stop for each on an open strategy, leaving a lot of options open for these drivers. on the run-in towards today's event. And taking a look then as the grid forms up 3 minutes before the first formation lap here as we get in to the talks of the first ever sprint race of the season. And so before we do read out that grid, one article of news then to discuss in the world of motorsports. That's coming from the 2026 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. Winward Racing wins and gives Mercedes-AMG their first win in 10 years since 2016. Mercedes of Mauro Engel, Maxime Martin, Fabian Schiller and Lucas Stoltz take victory amidst a hectic 24 hours of the Nürburgring that you could have caught live on YouTube over the course of this weekend. It was a fantastic race. We caught bits and pieces of it ourselves during our triple header yesterday, and it really did look to be a fantastic outing at the Nürburgring for them. And so we get to see now the first grid of the season, the sprint race for round 1 of Season 6 of the NLRL Sunday League. It's Carlos Disch on pole position with Fate Galaxy in second, George Todd in third and Patrick Leger in fourth. Cas van Velsen in fifth with Ian Skeen in sixth, Tyler Vermack in seventh, Michael Harris in eighth, Andrea Ledina in ninth and Vinicius Goyce rounds out the top 10. Nick Bright in 11th with Kyle Jenkins in 12th, Guy Rayfield in 13th with Elias De Vos in 14th, Konstantinos Chitos in 15th, Zolt Beefgartner in 16th, Richard Claffey in 17th, Ben Hart in 18th, Daniel Costa in 19th, and Simon Byrne rounds out the top 20. Lucas Clapp in 21st, Tom Barlow in 22nd, Danny Felix in 23rd, Manuel Winkler in 24th, Mikhail Kovar in 25th, John O'Driscoll in 26th, and Alan Alexander in 27th. You can see the 315 Bentley at the back of this field. A staggeringly large grid then on a staggeringly large track. But in spite of all of that, only a small race to be had here at the first of two. And so we're about 20 seconds out from getting on board with Carlos Disch into the first formation lap of the season here for round 1 sprint race. We wait then, the grid eerily silent. But it shall soon rattle the asphalt with over 20 engines firing in unison. So going to catch on board then with the leading Audi of last season's Rookies champion, now in his mainstay debut, on board with the 54 of Carlos Disch. 27 cars in attendance for round 1 of the championship here for Season 6 of the Sunday League by NLRL. We see the rest of the grid there packed in like sardines behind him. It is going to be a hectic start to things here. In only 20 minutes of racing to kick off the sprint, then 40 minutes on the feature thereafter. This is where we really could see a lot of those teething issues for these changes in vehicle creep up on the drivers as now pen meets paper and they'll go racing for the first time this season. Major overtaking spots to watch out for then. La Source, Lacombe, Bruxelles. The run down through to Stavolo, Campus, they're in as well just before it. And then the bus stop chicane. Also keep a close eye then for the run up through Eau Rouge and Radion and on to that Kemmel Straight. This is where things really could get quite ugly for these drivers. Now 28 cars in attendance as we do see an additional vehicle now added to the roster. And it would appear the number 4 going slow there at the back of the order. There is a bit of trouble there in surrounding it. But I think now, yes, it has gone up and running. A lot of fears then for the drivers when it comes to those technical issues surrounding video memory. I mean, we're kind of biting our tongue here and hoping nothing happens to us. We have had some issues at Spa before. Hopefully nothing, you know, fingers crossed, touch on wood, whatever have you. We should be all right because we got into this very early. Very, very early in this session. Though I'd be remiss to tell you I am not a little bit worried about this race because not only from the driver's point of view, but our point of view, you can't hear it, but I take this headset off and my Xbox, I have no idea how that thing has not blown up in my room at the moment. It sounds like an Airbus. It's ridiculously loud. Speaking of ridiculously loud, I mean, the grid will be alive with the sound of the V10 returning in force here, not only from Lamborghini, but now with Audi, that 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10. A very distinctive sound on this grid. You'll know if an Audi or a Lamborghini is racing at your nearby circuit. Just if you're within, I'd say, about 20 to 30 miles of it, you'll know. Very distinctive sound then. See then for Carlos Deege. Just taking things nice and smooth on the formation lap, sizing up the track right now, knowing that he is weighed down with the world's weight on his shoulders to fend off this grid. Very short race for him to start things off in the Sunday League on the brand new standard format. It's going to be exciting to see how it plays out in real time. And taking a look further around that field, of course, plenty of new Audis on the grid. And among them, Manuel Winkler, we get to see here right on the front row alongside Dee's Fake Galaxy. First ever Austrian driver to win in the NLRL Sunday League. And it's an all Euro Titans front row, but right behind these two, it's worth noting there, that's the Ferrari of George Todd and the Ford of Patrick Leger on what is a very capable top two rows. I'd say right behind them, though, to keep an eye, because that is Cas van Velzen and Ian Skeen, Porsche and Aston Martin. Then right behind them, Tyler Vermaak. So this is looking to be a very capable top 10 we're speaking of for this first race of the season. As we make our way down through towards Blanchimont. Just sitting here in the commentary box, our hearts are pounding out of our chests on the way in towards this first race of the season. And I can only imagine for the drivers what they're going through at the moment, beaming with excitement for the run down through Blanchimont, knowing it's going to be hell on earth to be up at Eau Rouge and Raidillon in a few seconds' time. Very soon then, the ground will shake here in Spa with the sound of 27 cars barreling up through Eau Rouge and Raidillon for the first time here in Season 6. Only moments away then, so contrary to popular belief, if this is your first time ever seeing a GT race at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, we're not starting on the standard opening straight for example, Formula 1. We actually do start after La Source at Turn 1. So this is where the race will end for these drivers, right along the checkered flag line there. You can just see up in front of them. That's where the race will end, but the race for them doesn't yet start until they round Turn 1. And they're on the run down towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon for the first time. You can see the scope of the grid behind. It is a glorious thing to see. Oh, so many different manufacturers, Porsches, Lamborghinis, McLarens, Fords. And up at the front then, Audi. Right out back, though, is going to be Bentley. That's going to be curious to see how they get on with that one. But without further ado, making our way down towards the line then for the first race of the season, the first ever sprint race in Sunday League history. Making our way down towards the line here for the new standard format, Season 6, Round 1 of the NLRL Sunday League. Powered by TRTN for the first time ever. Down to the line then, 27 cars in attendance. And we are green and racing here in Spa for the first time this season. The Spa Sprint officially underway. 20 minutes of racing against the clock. Down through to Eau Rouge and Raidillon we go for the first time. A great start by George Todd, an even better start by Van Velzen to go side by side with Leger for the first time. But it's the 54 getting away strong up through to the Kemmel Straight. Look at the Ferrari go right behind the Audi. Now up to second place as they spill up in towards Turn 6 on the run down towards Lecombe and Melmedy. George Todd on an absolute flyer up and against the 54 down through to Lecombe. My goodness, what a start that's been from the Mexican talent in the number 12, George Todd, gone with the wind on that race start up to second, so nearly into the lead, and the yellow flags are out from the 985. It's Danny Felix in trouble at Lecombe and Melmedy. He's got back up and running by looks of things here, so back in the green flag conditions, and what a start it's been for the 54, but my word, the kind of pace the number 12 has brought to the table here. Look at this from the 55. Fake Galaxy toe-to-toe here with Cas van Velzen, Season 3's Drivers' Champion, side by side with the 55. Muscles him out there at Turn 12. And then right up and along with him, that's Patrick Leger. And now Tyler Vermaak in and amongst the fray as well. Get a look at this down towards the run of things at Campus. Vermaak side by side with Galaxy. It's been a rough start there for the number 55 Audi. Muscled out of line on one position. And as we see, trying to slot in through there, Andrea Ledina in the number 71 bashes doors with the 55. Vinicius Goyce takes mantle of Division 2nd. Now up and ahead of Ledina as we make our way through the curve at Paul Frere. What an opening lap it's been then. Here for the start of Season 6. The Sunday League is back and back in force. 54 then leading into Blanchimont, and a brilliant getaway then from these two. George Todd, a man on a mission with that race start. Looking at this in the background, I believe that was Ledina out wide just off the exit of Blanchimont. Goyce on the inside. Ledina makes contact with Vinicius Goyce, who in turn collects Tyler Vermaak into the bus stop chicane. It was mayhem for these two on the run up into turn 19. We saw it was Ledina out wide. We're still watching here with the number 55 of Fake Galaxies. We saw rear-ended there by the 71, and that shoved Vinicius Goyce into Tyler Vermaak, and they fell like dominoes in that sector. Now back on board here with Fake Galaxy. Ian Skeen in his iron sights. Andrea Ledina just up in front, making our way up through Rouge and Radion. Just ignore there the ping. That does happen when we go onto the replays. If you're new to this series, happens all the time, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But have a look here. Elias de Vos versus Fake Galaxy. We see in the background there, now side by side, soon to be alongside Vinicius Goyce's Tyler Vermaak. So we see here trying to hold off position. Elias de Vos forced to cut over Lacombe and Melmedy, but rejoins up in front of Fake Galaxy. It's been a howler of a start here for the 55. Very, very stark contrast to how things have been going for the 54. Now, bear in mind, yellow flags are out and many drivers are already into the pit lane. Early doors here in this sprint race. That's now cleared out on the Kemmel Straight. Looking in here, Manuel Winkler currently fending off against Hart and Barlow in 19th place. We see, though, he's left the door in on the inside line open. Tom Barlow sweeps on through just out of our line of sight there. And it could be the case that Ben Hart's got to go here for 20th. Watching with Winkler as he tries to hold off ground here, but you can see the Audi really bad for the understeer in towards turn 12, and the BMW is just eating him up on the run in towards campus. Seeing in the pit lane then, this was another driver who brought out the yellow flag, Simon Byrne with Mercedes AMG, already into the paddock. Taking a look then, as it stands after the first couple of laps of racing, just about to roll in as it would happen then. Carlos Deesh leads over George Todd with Cas van Velzen up to third. Patrick Leger leads the rookies from fourth overall. Andrea Ledina in fifth with Ian Skeen in sixth. Elias de Vos in seventh. Right behind him is Fake Galaxy down through Blanchimont in eighth place. Zolt Beefgartner has been really on quite the send here. He's all the way up into that top 10. Right behind him is Guy Rayfield. Rayfield currently in the back end of the division top 5 for the rookies. He's currently classified as a reserve when he falls in to the rookies championship. This is a P5 he's looking at. Right alongside him there, Vinicius Goyce in 11th. Behind them, Tyler Vermaak in 12th. Konstantinos Chitos in 13th. Behind them, it's worth noting, that is Alan Alexander. He started plumb last on this grid and is now in the top 15. Behind him, Richard Claffey. Then behind him, John O'Driscoll in the number 420. Lucas Clapp in 17th with Ben Hart in 18th. Manuel Winkler in 19th and Mikhail Kovar in 20th. Running way out wide there at La Source. And holds on to that 20th for the time being. In the pit lane then, Nick Bright and Tom Barlow. We see Daniel Costa, big damage here for the number 28. He's what brought the yellow flags out of turn 6. We see him now making his way down through Blanchimont. That's going to be a pit lane run, if anything, here for Costa. Jenkins already into the pits. Right behind him there, that's Michael Harris. Simon Byrne now back out on track. Danny Felix, same story. Taking a look in here, a battle on 3 McLarens. Rayfield versus Goyce versus Vermaak for 10th place. Meanwhile, get a look at this up in front. Skeen swamped in by Ledina. Now out of the top 5. Right behind him is Elias de Vos in 7th. Then behind him, Fake Galaxy. A great start then for Andrea Ledina. Still holding on to that division 2nd. We're getting ever closer to Patrick Leger, only 2.2 seconds up in front. You see them for Skeen, troubles on his return to Aston Martin. Looking in behind here, Galaxy looking at a shot to go side by side with Elias de Vos, but just too far away down into campus. From behind him, Zolt Beefgartner drawing in closer, and what has been a brilliant start. And taking a look up through the order here to see that Ladina and Leger now 3.1 seconds apart. Leger sizing up a possible podium on debut to the Sunday League. The Fats GT regular looking to go toe-to-toe with last season's champion, Cas van Velzen, on title defense on the run into Season 6. Now back with his most notorious machine, the Porsche 911 992, which he used very effectively in his Season 3 run. Ultimately came short of the championship, but was one of the most notorious figures on that field. He's into the pit lane, though, so Leger is up to third for the time being. Coming up then to the halfway mark of the sprint, and what has been a great start to the season so far for Carl Arstiche and George Todd, who are far and away cleared of the rest of the field right now. Malwar Racing back into competition on the Sunday League and back with a vengeance in the hands of the number 12. Currently 2.4 seconds from Dish in the lead. A very confident start then for last season's Rookies champion. Now looking at a shot at the big table here, looking for the overall Drivers' Championship. And if this is the start we're coming to see of his pursuits of Season 6's championship, we're all here for it. The 54 on flying form in Spa. Van Velzen then in the pit lane, and joining him, Fate Galaxy and Zolt Beefgartner. Nearby fighting emerging here. Ladina versus Skeen. Let's go to catch on board with the Aston Martin as we go to check in with Ian Skeen. Swamped in between Elias de Vos and Andrea Ladina. Two rookies at his front and rear. Taking a look here with the Aston Martin down through to Bruxelles at turn 10. It's a very wobbly start to things here for Ian Skeen. Definitely some teething issues coming away from the Mercedes, which he has spent quite a fair deal of time with on ACC in the last couple of months. Coming back to Aston Martin, a manufacturer he's got history with, being the first driver since, I think yesterday, the first driver since Hayden Puttick to take a win with Aston Martin in the Sunday League. Did so in nighttime conditions at the Mount Panorama circuit over in Bathurst, New South Wales, Australia. Skeen was a prominent part of the Euro Titans lineup last season, as we see there, big wobble for him off the exit of Campus in towards Stavolo. So nearly lost his ground there for the position of 5th. Right now is defending away that 5th place spot from Elias de Vos, nipping at his heels off the exit of the curb of Paul Frere at turn 16. A grand start then as we get in towards the halfway mark of the sprint. Blanchimont now on the run in towards the bus stop chicane. Andrea Ladina gone with the wind there. 1.2 seconds out in front of Ian Skeen, right behind Elias de Vos. You saw it in the rear view mirrors there. So nearly spun Skeen out. De Vos now in the pit lane. And looks to be the same story there for Ladina. So, and also, I should point out there for Patrick Leger. So Ian Skeen now emerges onto the podium for the time being. We'll see what he chooses to do under strategy. More than likely the case that he'll be going for a 50-50 run of things halfway through. We see here a big storm of machinery down through to turn 1. Cheetos versus Claffey versus O'Driscoll. Claffey looking at the inside here on Konstantinos Cheetos with Lamborghini and Kafrovic Racing. Claffey gets the move up. Right behind them, John O'Driscoll, part of the original back row bandits over on VSR. Sadly, he'll be without Kieran Rodd today. Oh, my word there for Richard Claffey. How has he held on to that one? Through goes Cheetos and through goes O'Driscoll. But my goodness, that could have been the end of the road for Richard Claffey with CRT Racing Porsche. O'Driscoll surfing up past now Konstantinos Cheetos. Watch the 420 fly down through in towards turn 7. Last of the late breakers there was the Lamborghini, but the Ferrari holds ground and moves up ahead of both of them. Now to what looks to be his 7th. And that was a real heart in the throat kind of moment there for the number 93. Now gets up and ahead of the number 4 down through to Bruxelles. What a run that's been for them there. A very hectic first sector as they make their way into sector 2 proper. It's now O'Driscoll leading that 3-car pack for 8th place. Looking down towards the back end of the field to see the drivers who have come into the pits earlier on today. We find Kyle Jenkins versus Zolt Beefgartner on consideration here as they make their way uphill. That's 2 Lexus cars packed in behind us. I believe that is Michael Harris along with them for the ride up through Eau Rouge and Radion. So let's go to catch on board with these drivers here as we see now getting up and ahead of Kyle Jenkins goes Zolt Beefgartner. Tucked 2 wheels onto the grass there, the 599. Now up and ahead, the 34 looking to have a go here. Here comes Michael Harris on Kyle Jenkins, trying to hold it from the inside. Oh, it's a big spin there. Well, nearly a big spin, half spin for the 34. That invites in Vinicius Goyce. Oh, there goes Michael Harris. Out through turn 9, collects Vinicius Goyce with him. Oh, no, no, no. Horrible moment there for Lexus. We watched there the start of it. Had a half spin and then a bit of a tank slapper with the 113. Then there was a little bump from behind from Goyce. Down through, he just hugs the curb there and it hooks the whole front of the car in. There's nowhere Vinicius can go and he just tucks in along his side. There's nowhere that, as it stands, that McLaren could have gone in that situation. Jenkins now falling in behind Beefgartner. Is currently spared of any further loss of position. Looking then to see that John O'Driscoll is our latest attendee to the pit lane. We've seen plenty of drivers push the envelope out here for the opportunities for a late strategy. Get a look here with Alan Alexander. He started from the back of the field, a disqualification in quali, and he'll have to do it all over again in the feature race. But right now, backs up onto the rear bumper of Guy Rayfield in the top 5. We see then on his debut to Bentley this season, it has been a very energetic drive so far here in the sprint for Alan Alexander. Was the first rookie to win outright in a race here in the Sunday League, did so in Kyle Army in his time with Porsche. In pouring wet conditions, mind you. And that's something he'll be very much so hoping to see at least once over the course of this season, is more rainy conditions on the horizon. We've seen how formidable the Bentley can be. If you watched earlier a few months ago, our coverage of the 6 Hours of Silverstone over on the NLRL Console Endurance Series, it was the exclusive esports team who ended up taking victory in the 787 Bentley amidst one of the best races of the season, where there were so many different teams up in contention for that lead. Ultimately, Bentley had it at the checkered flag. Number 315 then staying close here with the 187. Guy Rayfield on his debut to the Sunday League grid has fit in nicely. McLaren on good form here, currently marked as a reserve. That's the silver placards you see there, also found on Barlow, Burnham, Felix. It's a case here where they've not sadly been able to be categorized in either of the two main categories, and only until a slot clears itself up on the entry list will they then fall into the championship. But they are effectively rookies in spirit, as that's where they will end up. They are new names to the championship. We see for Alexander now looking on the inside on Rayfield, down through to turn 19, but he runs deep there at the start of the bus stop chicane. Guy Rayfield has the chance here. Better exit off the exit of turn 20. 187, I don't think is quite yet finished with Alan Alexander and the 315 Bentley in this fight for the top 5. Meanwhile, no current news then from the 4 cars ahead of these two in terms of running to the pits. Another wide exit there from La Source. That McLaren just staying along with Alan Alexander for the run uphill at Eau Rouge and Radion. Going to get a look on board then with the Bentley, leading this pack of cars as we do get note there. Into the pit lane goes Ben Hart. And both of them being forced to cut over Eau Rouge and Radion, but getting a look over the rear bumper of the Bentley. You can see the McLaren very clearly in his slipstream. The Bentley, though, very formidable in the straight lines. But being in that slipstream means that McLaren of Guy Rayfield isn't going anywhere. Down through to Lacombe, turn 7. He's still within a second of the 315. Taking a look then to see now Manuel Winkler and Ben Hart both in the pit lane. 9th and 10th on this grid at the moment. Taking a look here to see a newfound fight. This is for Andrea Ladina. Currently 15th is up for grabs. And Kyle Jenkins out in front of him. Patrick Leger, as it would happen, under strategy right now, looks to still lead the rookies. He's 12th overall. He's going to move into that top 10 now, getting up past Winkler and Hart. Now into the top 10 he goes. He really has mixed the grid up, though, to give us quite a few scattered fights here in the sprint. Heading into the last couple of minutes. Guy Rayfield, number 187, still holding on here, but both of these two, as well as the remainder of that top 5, are at some point going to need to come into the pits. And seeing here from the race lead, Carlos Dish, now 4.4 seconds up the road from George Todd. We'll see what the strategy is, though, coming forward here for Carlos Dish. Right now, darting for the pit lane, so begins that treacherous run all the way through every nook and cranny of the pit lane here. One of the longest pits we've ever seen in any motorsports venue. Meanwhile, the number 12, George Todd, stays out. As for Ian Skeen and Tyler Vermack, will come to see. Right now, as it stands, neither of them have taken that leap. We also have word of a yellow flag up on Eau Rouge and Radion. That is for Lucas Clapp, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if we can catch him. As right now, yes, you can see the damaged Ferrari just limping its way down the Kemmel. Clearly steering damage as well. You can see it's listing on one side. There's been a big hit for him off of Eau Rouge and Radion. It's actually somewhat of a miracle that car's still operating. Operating, I should say. I don't know why I said it with such strange syllables. Looking here, Ladina v Jenkins now up and ahead. Ladina, definitely one to watch then in the rookies. That 71 has been on flying form throughout the sprint. The feature coming up next is going to give us even more opportunities to see what they're made of. We see a mass infill of the pit lane. Vermaak is now in. So too is Alexander. So too is Claffey. So too is Cheetos. Staying out is Rayfield, Skeen, and Todd. Rayfield stays out as well. Makes among the last drivers then to come into the pits. They're going to need to go in on this lap, or it's all for naught. We see for Carlos Deesh now dropping off as Jackson is on his way out, but will he be intercepted by Cas Van Velzen? Well, Van Velzen's on the climb now in towards Eau Rouge and Radion. He's just off the exit of turn 2. So with Deesh just on the exit there of Eau Rouge and Radion, now into turn 6. He has got fair distance here up over Van Velzen, but see the difference in exit speed through to turn 6 we go. Van Velzen is going to be in hot pursuit here. By the way it stands for him at the moment, Van Velzen is moving up to a provisional second place under strategy right now. Vermaak re-emerging to the track right alongside there. I believe that is Daniel Costa along with him. And in behind, you can see one of the Lexus cars. That's the 599 of Zolt Beefgartner. As it would happen for Vermaak, he is looking at a top 5, but it's Leger. By the way it stands at the moment, that could be on for a podium. On debut as well, that's a strong start to be expected from the number 9. Galaxy behind him, 1.3 seconds. He's done well to turn things around here. It was a very rough start in the 55. As we do head up into the last lap of racing then, George Todd is into the pit lane. Better late than never strategy. Ian Skeen's following him in. And for Guy Rayfield, this has to be in now. And yes, in goes the 187. So Carlos Deesh now heading its way down through to Stavelot. Here at turn 15, turn 16 just around here now at the Kerberpool Frere. He's got solid ground here over Van Velzen, about a corner and a half away as Van Velzen now crosses through turn 16. Patrick Leger currently holds on to what could be third place. Now this heavily teeters on what can happen here for George Todd. He has had a phenomenal race. There is the expectation he'll emerge in second, but he's going to be sandwiched in between what is currently a 5.7 second gap between Carlos Deesh and Cas Van Velzen. The two champions of last season, rookies champion and overall drivers champion, currently on that front row, and Todd still hasn't yet come to a stop. Meanwhile, as we see here for Carlos Deesh, right now he is coming up round La Source at turn 1. Todd has come into his stop. Question is, how long is he going to be in for it here? Drops off his jack, so he's on his way out just as we cross through turn 2 here for Carlos Deesh. This is going to be a close one for George Todd, depending on how close he is to the exit of the pits. We see it now. We hear the sound of the Audi rising up over the crest. Now moving into second goes George Todd. He's done very well there. That's razor thin on strategy as we head into the last lap of racing. Moving into the lead then, Carlos Deesh. Cas Van Velzen third. George Todd second. We see for Rayfield, he's on his way out. Now we see the order start to stack up a little bit more accurately here. In behind Leger is Ian Skeen. We are on the final lap then. Carlos Deesh only a few corners away from becoming the first ever driver to win with Audi. Already broke records last season, being the first Austrian driver ever to win in the Sunday League. And kicking things off here in the sprint. What has been, I must say, a fantastic start to racing today. I think this new set of regulations, there was a lot of controversy surrounding them on the run in towards Season 6, but this has been fantastic here. Getting a look in to see. There is battling all the way to the line here. Rayfield versus DeVos. Right now, though, for Carlos Deesh, he's making his way down a campus with George Todd and Cas Van Velzen liable to fight for second. Leger in 4th. Galaxy behind him there, not too far away at all. Currently in 5th. We see then for Deesh, looking to quickly try and catch on board here as we see fighting now Vinicius Goyce versus Guy Rayfield. Elias DeVos now 1.2 seconds in the clear. Going back on though with Carlos Deesh only a few corners away from his first victory of Season 6. What a way to kick things off then for Carlos Dish here in the first sprint race on the new standard format for Season 6 of the NLRL Sunday League. Down to the line we go then after what has been an action-packed 20 minutes of racing. Seeing the checkered flag then, Carlos Dish wins in the sprint here in Spa. A brilliant drive for the 54. I made a bit of a typo earlier saying he was the first Austrian winner. That was Fake Galaxy. Swiss is Carlos Dish. Nonetheless, though, becomes a new record holder. First ever Audi race win in this series. Across the line then, Dish wins in in Spa. George Todd held it to a T there to make second. And Cas van Velzen on the podium. Patrick Leger, your winner in the rookies category. What a start to the season it's been here for Leger. Fake Galaxy, who we had mixed up there with Carlos Dish, finishes in the top 5. A good turnaround there for the 55. Ian Skeen in 6th place, with Tyler Vermack in 7th. Zolt Beefgartner in 8th. Andrea Ladina on their debut to the rookies on the podium, 2nd in division, 9th overall. Alan Alexander, easy driver of the day there, turning things around from what was a back of the field start. Currently makes 10th at the end of this race. Ben Hart across the line. Tom Barlow with Simon Byrne right behind him there. Across the line they go. We see so many close finishes there. Alexander to Ladina. And we also see Goyce to Rayfield. John O'Driscoll now slots in between the pair of them to 14th. Winkler looking at 22nd. Bright 23rd. Kovar 24th. And Clapp looking at 26th. It's a definitive 25th for Daniel Costa. Carlos Dish then, your winner in the sprint for round 1 of the championship. Coming up in just a moment's time then is going to be the feature race. 40 minutes of racing to be had here in round 1. Wait for the full result to come through in just a moment's time. Awaiting the arrival of the 36. Nick Bright's been a bit of a tough start for him today. He does find himself in the trailing half of the field. Down across the line he goes in the number 36 to see 23rd at the end of the sprint. Mikhail Kovar looking at 24th. And then we wait to see then from Clapp in a moment's time. We see for Euro Titans back on form here. A win for Carlos Dish. Double podium for Euro Titans. We see a very short parade, I'd say. Only 3 cars in attendance there, but the rest of them in the paddock. That's Cas van Velzen, Ian Skeen, and Alan Alexander. Your triple header there. On your way down past the no-name corner. Brilliant performance, though, I must say, from these 3 drivers. There's your final result in from the sprint race today. Carlos Dish wins in the round 1 sprint. George Todd in 2nd, Cas van Velzen in 3rd, Leger 4th, and Galaxy in 5th. Skeen on your screens at the moment in 6th, with Vermack 7th, Beefgartner 8th, Ladina in 9th, and Alexander rounds out the top 10. Your 2 winners then, Carlos Dish in the overall, and Patrick Leger wins on his rookie debut in category. Brilliant performance then by those 2. You can see the rest of the results here from 11th all the way down to 20th. And then from 20th all the way down to 30th, as we can see there, 3 cars sadly unable to attend. Polini, Cheeseman, and Vodvarka. So reeling away from what has been a brilliant open to this series, we're not quite yet finished. As now, coming away from the talks of the sprint, we head to the feature. 40 minutes of racing then coming up in a moment's time, taking a look back onto the regulations here at the trailing end of what has been an action-packed start to round 1. The feature race coming up in just a moment's time. 40 minutes of racing coming up on this last grid for today. Same strategy as before. 1 mandatory pit stop on an open strategy. Minimum 3.2 seconds of added fuel as per regulations. Onto the feature race then, and it's the same grid from before. Dish, Galaxy, Todd, Leger, and Van Velzen in your top 5. And it's going to be a curious case here for Alan Alexander and John O'Driscoll at the back of the field. The number 25 and the number 25, sorry, the 25th and 26th place cars, number 420 and number 315. We see also having reconnected to the field is Vinicius Goyce, who I believe is having some troubles there with connection. And that could be much the same story then for a few other drivers. We are now, as it would stand, down to 26 cars on this grid. I'd say it was an easy driver of the day pick there for the 315. Very few, if any, discussions surrounding the 315 wasn't met with great astonishment to see that he started way down the order here and moved into a top 10 by the end of this race. It was a phenomenal drive from that Bentley. So then Carlos Dish on a running start, a win on debut to Audi this season. And on his debut to the mainline grid, rookie no longer the 54. He wears that silver star with pride. Last season's rookies champion, the one before that would have been William Bajor of VEC Esports, who originally was on the entry list, but rather mysteriously is not here today. A pity then, we could have seen both rookies, and the rookie champions, I should say, go head to head. Alas, we'll have to wait until later on this season. The minute and a half before we get into the next formation lap, the Bentley there, quite literally bouncing with glee to get it on into the feature race. 40 minutes of race and a follow then as we head in towards the look of things on the calendar. So, of course, we're still in round one at the moment. We're coming up into the feature race after today. We're heading into a new sprint format. 3 sprint races instead of 2. Heading into Indianapolis next week on the 24th. Then we come back to the same format you're seeing today for Silverstone, Donington, Imola, and the Red Bull Ring throughout this season. We also have the endurance layout, an hour and a half worth of racing coming up for the first time on round 4 on the 7th of June. Our first ever visit with the Sunday League grid to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. We've been to the GP Strecke before, but the Nordschleife has been ground we've yet to conquer in this championship, and we'll see the first ever go around on the 7th next month.
30 seconds.
So then going on board with a man who's already claimed victory right here in Spa off of that sprint race win for the start of the season. Back on with the pole sitter, Carlos Disch. Right alongside him then is comrade in arms and a driver that we mistook him for earlier in this broadcast. I'm not going to live that one down. That's more or less me criticising me, but right alongside him then is Fake Galaxy in the 55. You'll see him just over the shoulder there, left shoulder of Carlos Disch. That'll be our right from the view of the cameras as he pulls away from the grid. 27 cars so far. We have had reconnect to the grid there, I believe. "13 on one side, 14 on the other for the start of the feature race here in round 1 of the NLRL Sunday League Season 6, powered by TRTN. And so far, if we just pull up our archives in just a moment, over the course of this formation lap, with Audi now part of the winner's circle, just having a look in to see how many manufacturers have actually taken wins now over the course of this championship. So, first ever driver to win with McLaren was Wesley Kuiper, Season 1, Round 1 at Misano. First ever BMW was Melvin Milliston, Season 1, Round 4 in Austria. The first Aston Martin was Hayden Puttock in the Nürburgring GP Strecke, Season 1, Round 8 at the finale race. The first ever Lexus to win was Jason Bush in Kyalami, Season 2, Round 4. The first Ford to win was Martijn van Manen in Indianapolis, Season 1, Round 5. The first AMG to win was, I believe, yes, Cas van Veltzen, number 420 AMG, Monza, Season 4, Round 4. The first Porsche to win was apparently also Van Veltzen, though originally we had it saved that it was Alan Alexander in Kyalami, Season 4, Round 8. So that one's a little bit on the table there. I'm pretty sure it is actually, in retrospect, Cas van Veltzen. And now we've just seen adding into the circle, bringing the current number of unique winning manufacturers up to 8. First ever driver to win with Audi, Carlos Disch, Season 6, Round 1 Sprint. These two drivers here, originally last season's demons when it came to the double sprint races, with Disch's first victories and bringing him to be the first Swiss driver ever to win in this series was both double header rounds at Bathurst at Season 5, Round 4. And then for Austria's Fake Galaxy, it was Zandvoort, Race 1 and 2, Season 5, Round 8. Could we be seeing, with the new default standard format being technically a pseudo double sprint with a sprint and feature format now for this season, could this be the rise of these two to properly strong arm competition in Season 6 of the Sunday League? Well, the sprint has already given us plenty enough to show the pace of at least 2 drivers at the front of that field to keep an eye as well on that number 12. George Todd was gone with the wind on that race start. I think had it been even slightly faster for the number 12, he could have had a shot to try and lead into Lecombe. Or at the very least out of it. So we're keeping a very close eye there to George Todd. We go rolling down through past the Curb Paul Frere into Blanchimont here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Carlos Disch then, he's been ice cold throughout today's session, took pole position by force, led by force, won by force, but now we must face off against the feature, double the length of the last race, to bring us into the end of round 1. Looking around the field to see here a few drivers to keep an eye out for. Ian Skeen with Aston Martin. Also to keep an eye out there, Cas van Velzen, last season's Drivers' Champion. And also the number 12 Ferrari there of George Todd of Maloir Racing. First ever team's champions back in Season 3. We see, oh, was that a bit of trouble there for, I think that was Kyle Jenkins. Yes, it was, a 5-star esports. Going to catch on board then with the number 55 and 54 for that matter. Again, they've definitely got to change this livery stuff. I can't keep getting that confused over the course of this season. Down through to turn 1. The start of the feature race here at round 1 of the NLRL Sunday League Season 6, powered by TRTN. Down towards the line then. Audi all over that front row. Will there be redemption in the start for that 55? We're about to find out as we go down to the line here. 26 cars in all for the feature race at round 1. Without further ado then, we are green and racing here in Spa for the last time today. 40 minutes against the clock now on the feature race start. The number 71 given a drive-through for a starting infraction. And much like we saw in the sprint, look at the start from the number 12. Right up and alongside the 55 of Fake Galaxy. George Todd now in hot pursuit of Carlos Disch. Down the Kemmel Straight we go. Watching over the rear view here of the number 54, you can also see that Cas van Velzen is looking to take a piece here out of the podium. But looking on the inside, here we go with the number 12. Makes contact and going over the exit on Lecombe and Melmedy goes Carlos Disch. George Todd now stays in second, but look who's right on top of him here as it's Cas van Velzen side by side. The 71 with that drive-through penalty. Andrea Ledina second in the rookies on this grid. That's going to be a huge impact for the rookies podium. Leger still leads that from currently 5th, tucked in right behind the 55 of Fake Galaxy. Getting a look in here, though, with Cas van Velzen, who looks to go toe-to-toe with George Todd into pool 1 at turn 12. Yellow flags are out for the number 28 of Daniel Costa at the no-name corner, and he's out of this race. On board at the moment then with last season's Drivers' Champion, the number 1 of Cas van Velzen, back to Porsche here for Season 6. You can see just miles off in the distance already, 2.6 seconds in the lead off of the position here of 3rd. Carlos Disch is just gone. Point proven there, gone. Oh, in the background, that's Ledina and Skeen. Oh my goodness, in the background there, a huge incident off the exit of the Curb Paul Frere, as there is a considerable build-up there off of turn 16. Andrea Ledina, as it would appear now, plumb last to this grid, down to what appears to be 25th. Watching here with Cas van Velzen, still looking to fight with George Todd, but he's got 2 cars right up his backside there. The 55 and the 9 of Galaxy and Leger. We see a bit of a stumble there for George Todd. Van Velzen has the chance. Meanwhile, more yellow flags out behind him. The number 36 in trouble. And that's for Nick Bright. So we see going for the inside down at La Source goes Cas van Velzen on George Todd. These two really getting their elbows out for the run in towards turn 2. Watching here over the rear view of Cas van Velzen, George Todd is going to have all manner of slipstream for the run onto the Kemmel here on the official lap 1. Both of them being forced to cut. Through Arusha Radion, it's a tap there between the number 12 and the number 1. They collide on the Camel and collects Patrick Leger as well. A huge wipeout in the fight for second. One tiny tap there from the number 12. We saw just hooked onto the diffuser of Cas van Velsen's Porsche. A disaster between the 12 and the 1. Skating on through there by millimeters away from the action was that of the 55. But a huge incident there on the Camel. For Van Velsen, now down to 21st. The number 40 of Ben Hart, a recent casualty, and now is also out of this race. George Todd in the paddock at the moment, likely also to be out of this race. It's O'Driscoll turned around at turn 10. Also caught up in the fray there, the 44 of Lucas Clapp. That's Van Velsen right behind him. A lot of trouble here on the feature race to kick off the opening 4 minutes of racing here in Spa. Has been a very tough day after that sprint. Right now then, Audi hold that 1-2 lead. Carlos Disch from Fake Galaxy, Patrick Leger now all the way down the order here, being swamped in by, well, looks of it there, that is Konstantinos Chitos and Michael Harris, as it would happen. You can see that front end damage. He's going nowhere anytime soon. Guy Rayfield gets up past him, so now, oh my goodness, is that? Yes, it is. It's Alan Alexander off the exit of turn 16. Already within shot of the top 10. With the fastest lap as well. That Bentley. God, you don't want to get in the path of that thing. It's like the juggernaut. Looking here, Harris versus Cheetos. This is going to be an interesting one. Michael Harris became the first Lexus to win since Jason Bush 3 seasons ago. And now goes for the outside, then the inside at turn 19. Was that? Yes, it was. I believe. Looking in there, yes, the 113 darted across into the pit lane. So there goes Kyle Jenkins. Konstantinos Chitos looking at counter-attack here on Michael Harris. Looking for the inside down at La Source. We do see trouble, though. Oh, wait, no, it's just he stopped number 12 there. My mistake. Seeing, though, the build-up of a very solid fight indeed here between Konstantinos Chitos and Michael Harris. Behind them, we're seeing what looks to be Guy Rayfield versus Alan Alexander versus Simon Byrne up through Rouge and Radion. You already saw Rayfield get into a fair few fights in the sprint. We'll see what he can do here on his debut to this series. Firm pack of cars there heading from out behind Michael Harris. So 7th all the way down here by looks of things to 11th, all within a second of one another. Also, other fights going on at the same time here. Tom Barlow versus Danny Felix, 2 of the reserves, soon to be categorized in the rookies. We already have 4 cars in the pit lane. Van Velsen, Geuss, Leger, and Jenkins. We also have a fight here. Elias de Vos versus Zolt Beefgartner. Looking in now, Rayfield has a chance on Cheetos for 8th. Down through Pouon. And Byrne having a much better start now to the feature than he did in the sprint. Up in the field of competition here, well within his chances for a top 10 on debut. Up in front, things getting much closer now. Down through campus in towards Stavolo. Rayfield versus Cheetos for 8th, right behind them. Alexander and Byrne. Down through here at Stavolo into the curb of Paul Frere. Worth noting as well, DeVos v Beefgartner still in progress, and now joining the fray from behind them is Tyler Vermack with 5-Star Esports. Getting a look in here as well to see recent overtakes by looks of things now for O'Driscoll v Winkler. On the exit of turn 16, O'Driscoll now side by side, and as it appears now up and ahead. Going back in to see action with these 3 as we see Rayfield taken on the inside by Alexander. Rayfield's going to have the inside down at turn 20, but he can't find the grounds for it. Darting to the pit lane goes Byrne in the 279 Mercedes. A disastrous start then to today's feature race for Van Velsen and for Todd. One tiny tap there off the exit of turn 6. Kick-started a huge domino effect between those 2, making their way now, watching on with Guy Rayfield in his fight with Alan Alexander and Konstantinos Cheetos as we go up the hill here at Rouge and Radion. Currently fighting for 8th place. We see for Alexander, he's been a man on a mission, started plumb last of the field as he did in the sprint race, and right now already achieving the goal he set out for in the sprint. What took him 20 minutes the last time has only taken him 8 minutes this time as he's up into that top 10. Elias DeVos looking to fight here with Zolt Beefgartner. Tyler Vermack right behind them. Let's go to catch on board with these three. They've got a very good angle of things here. Going to catch on board if we can with the McLaren at the back of that pack. On with the number 8. Front row tickets then to a fight for 4th. Tyler Vermack pursuing DeVos and Beefgartner. Down through to the row of things at turn 12 at Pouon. Down through now to the run at Campus. We see there, going for the inside, a bit of a switchback in progress. Down at Campus now, the long way around the outside goes Elias DeVos into 4th place. Vermack's still part of this, but he's plotting his next move really here from back in 6th place. He could be looking closer at a fight for 5th right now with Zolt Beefgartner. It's Elias DeVos starting to pull away. This is where the Lexus is going to start reeling him back in, but the McLaren certainly has an opportunity here to get both of them. Down through Blanchimont, we see the Ferrari much slower than the Lexus, so it's building up a bit of a line of traffic here at Blanchimont. Vermack's got the pace, but has he got the room? Heading up towards turn 19, you'll think as well, yes, the Lexus wants to go for the inside. So a rolling roadblock here between these two in their ongoing fight for 4th. Now joined by Vermack, as now darting to the pit lane goes Beefgartner. It's DeVos versus Vermack for 4th place. We'll catch on with them in a little while's time here. Now closing in is the McLaren, but taking a look back in behind to see Beefgartner versus Cheetos. Lamborghini and Bentley looking to go toe-to-toe here for a scrap of position. Up in front, we see Michael Harris. Slowly but surely gaining distance here onto Tyler Vermack and Elias DeVos. A new three-way fight for 4th starting to emerge. Also in the background here, O'Driscoll v Barlow. Side-by-side off the exit of La Source. Down through turn 2 onto Eau Rouge and Radion. As we cross down through the dip here up towards Eau Rouge and Radion now as we're back up the hill. A bit of a wobble there for Tom Barlow. John O'Driscoll up a position, then into 12th. Technically into 11th there with Beefgartner in the pit lane. We'll wait for the update on it though. Down the Kemmel, 2 Ferraris still in contention. Great move then by O'Driscoll. He's on a recovery drive here after trouble in the early moments of the feature. Looking in for Vermack versus DeVos. Still has his sights set there on that Ferrari, but he's got to keep privy to the understanding. The Harris is not too far away, and if he slips up at all, he'll be facing both barrels of last season's winner in Donington. Seeing here the ongoing fight for Alexander versus Cheetos. Let's go to catch on board then with the Bentley and see what's going on here for the latest edition of the Back Row Bandits. A growing tradition then over at Euro Titans. It started off on our screens over on VSR with Kieran Rodd and John O'Driscoll, and now it's become emblematic of Euro Titans racing attitude. They will deliberately field a driver at the back knowing they've got the prowess like Alexander does. Where we saw it originally in Rodd, we're seeing it now in Alexander. And this does tell a very compelling story, I must say, when it comes to the opportunities further on in this season. If he starts fielding proper in qualifying, Alan Alexander, I'd say, has got a very good chance here of race wins this season. He's got a very capable car. He's very much so fired up and ready to go for this season. And the new regulations rewarding more short, spontaneous, snappy racing is working wonders here for the 315 as we now see him fight with Konstantinos Cheetos down through La Source. Lamborghini versus Bentley. Still on board then with the 315, currently fighting for 7th. You see, though, he's really bogging down there. He's been forced to cut. And he has to lift off the throttle as to show he's not gaining advantage. Otherwise, he will get a penalty. At 3 tenths away, we see in the background by 2.7 seconds, Guy Rayfield. And then behind him, Richard Claffey at the back of the top 10. One of a rare number of vehicles to be right-hand drive here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. The other notable example being the Ginetta G55 down in GT4. You see, though, for Alexander, perhaps some of the teething issues emerging from this choice of going with Bentley, because unlike the Porsche, he's not driving a smaller car anymore. He's not on the petite end when it comes to the size of his GT3. He is driving one of the biggest on the grid here, meaning he's got a factor for way wider a gap than he would have had to in his previous choices at either Mercedes or Porsche. This is quite the battle cruiser of a car, the Bentley Continental. This 2018 model featuring a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 engine. Chasing down then the Lamborghini. And hats off here really to Konstantinos Chitos. This has been admirable defense here from the Lamborghini. Chitos spent a few rounds last season in his very early steps into the Sunday League grid, which is why he's still part of the rookies' itinerary for the time being. He spent that time with BMW, but he seems far more comfortable now on this move to Lamborghini. Up in front, we're starting to see the emergence of a three-way fight from Michael Harris, Elias De Vos, and Tyler Vermaak. We'll see, though, if that comes to change in a moment's time, because we have seen, by the looks of it there, one of them into the pit lane. It's Michael Harris. So up in front, De Vos versus Vermaak for fourth is next on our radar. In behind them, then, currently fighting for sixth, upgraded from a fight of seventh, Alexander versus Chitos. We'll catch on with them in a moment's time, but taking a look in then to find here from the number 99's point of view, Elias De Vos on the climb up through Eau Rouge and Radion, turns 3 through 5. Making his way up through to turn 6 onto the Kemmel Straight. 25 minutes left to go, so getting closer and closer now to the halfway here on the feature. That McLaren just has enough in the back pocket to keep the Ferrari at arm's length down the Kemmel. It's going to be in the corners here where De Vos is going to try and have any kind of advantage over Vermaak. You know quite well the Ferrari, very, very nimble car, much like the McLaren. It's got just a little bit over it in terms of rotation. Down through Bruxelles. Two mid-engine juggernauts there, toe-to-toe. Number 8 and number 99 down through to the no-name corner. We'll catch on with them in a moment, but taking a look here, getting closer to the halfway. Carlos Diesch leads over Fake Galaxy and an Audi 1-2 for Euro Titans, and it's a 1-2-3 for the Euro Titans endurance team with Ian Skeen on the podium for Aston Martin. It was a down-and-out turn of things in the sprint, but the feature has yielded far better results for him so far. Tyler Vermaak in 4th with Elias De Vos chasing from behind in 5th. Konstantinos Chitos in 6th with Alan Alexander in 7th. Guy Rayfield in 8th. Richard Claffey in 9th and John O'Driscoll rounds out the top 10. Tom Barlow in 11th with Manuel Winkler in 12th. Lucas Clapp in 13th and Michael Kovar in 14th. As it stands right now, the drivers having come into the pits early, Harris, Beefgartner, so both of the Lexus cars there, the 599 and the 34, having swapped place for 15th. Then Jenkins, Byrne, and Leger and Van Veltzen after that incident with George Todd up towards turn 6. I believe we still have that on the replays. This was from earlier on in this race. It was a tap there from the number 12 as the two were right on top of each other out through Eau Rouge and Radion. We saw that ended up collecting Patrick Leger, which has affected his ability to lead in the rookies division here on the feature race. That was a sort of major incident of the feature so far. You see if Van Veltzen is still in fighting spirit. Into the pit lane goes Elias De Vos and Alan Alexander. Rayfield and Claffey stay out. O'Driscoll stays out. Barlow stays out. Winkler. We'll see what happens here for the number 80. Stays out. As for Clapp, stays out. Kovar would be next in consideration. We'll update on any changes there to the pit lane. Number 54 still leads over the 55. A great turn of fortune here for Fake Galaxy. Question there and remains. 3.7 seconds. Can he clear that margin by the end of this race to go in within a chance of his first win? And that would be his first win, I believe, since Zandvoort in Season 5, Round 8, where in which he became the first Austrian driver to win. These two already breaking new ground with Audi. Looking at an Audi double podium right now, off of the trail to their first ever victory as a manufacturer, becoming the 8th unique brand to win in the Sunday League after the most recent additions by AMG and Porsche. Things are coming up grand for the German brands at the moment. They've been among the latest of race winners. Mercedes and Porsche now joined by Audi. It was BMW, a very early adopter to the model of winning in this championship at the hands of Melvin Milliston. The two-time champion still holds the all-time record for most amount of race wins at a staggering 18 race wins over his career in the Sunday League. Now is held in between McLaren and BMW when he raced with Velocity Racing. And we're hoping to see him return to the grid this season with the revamped success ballast. But alas, we've yet to see anything of the Super Swede again. And that's kept the doors wide open for the arrival of new possible champions in this season. We've already seen a very vibrant start here to this championship for Carlos Disch. I'd say it's on very good authority, and we said this last season, that once he gets his way into a full-time drive, because he was a late attendee to Season 5, once he gets into a full-time drive, there is very little to say that he can't go for a championship this season. It was quite the miracle. He was within a shot of it last season, given that he started multiple rounds down. Fate Galaxy then, same story. I'd say we're going to be seeing a real story of two here amongst the two Audi cars for Euro Titans, but it's worth keeping an eye then for drivers like Vermaak, like Skeen, like Van Velzen, and I'd even say having a glance here for drivers like Rayfield and also for Leger. I'd keep a close mention for there. It's not been his day here on the feature race, but he did take the win in the sprint, so he already does have a race win there. Now in the pit lane, Konstantinos Chitos, Tom Barlow, and Lucas Clapp. We see approaching the line here is Zolt Beefgartner and Michael Harris, the two Lexus cars from TSRC Esports and Team FBR. You may be wondering, well, if they're two different teams, why are they running the same livery? Simply put, you've got like two options with the Lexus. I have no idea why the liveries are so restrictive. Pretty sure this is the, I want to say this is the Emil Frey one, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, well, yeah, it just says it there. I suppose that answers our question entirely. Down through turn one, Zolt Beefgartner about to be up 3 positions and back into that top 10. So coming up on the halfway mark of racing, this is likely where we could see a pit stop here for Carlos Disch.
We are halfway through, keep pushing.
An Audi 1-2 here in Spa after their first victory as a brand in this sprint. And Euro Titans, very clear message put forward, just as they did back in Season 5, that they're not here to play around, they're coming for championships, and whilst they already have it in the bag, they are not going to start pumping the brakes. All gas, no brakes for these guys. They do not rest once they've got that championship in their possession. You see here, still ongoing fight amongst the Lexus cars as we enter the second half of today's race. We now see in the pit lane is Vinicius Gois of Team VGN. Was in very early trouble today here in the feature. Was also in a spot of bother earlier on in the sprint race, if I remember correctly, here down at the bus stop chicane. So it's been a bit of a spotty experience there for Vinicius Gois. I think we'll go to catch on board here with the two Lexus cars currently fighting for 9th place. This does look to be a fairly engaging fight between these two. And as I say that, we do have trouble. It's for the number 1. Yellow flags are out for Cas Van Velzen down at Lecom. What's gone on here for Van Velzen? Into the wall there, you can see actually listing on its side a little bit there. That's Cas Van Velzen stranded down at Lecom and Melmedy. That is last season's champion stranded off the exit of the track. And that looks to be the end of his road here in round 1. A very troubled start then for Cas Van Velzen on championship title defense. The green flags subside and we've just got confirmation there, and you saw it, the number 1, Cas Van Velzen, is out. Looking now to see a drive-through penalty has been given out to Manuel Winkler for track limits. The Audi currently 8th on the field. Yet to have taken its pit stop. This is going to be a tough one for him because that is possibly the worst track to get a drive-through penalty on. A drive-through penalty here in Spa is about as long as a pit stop at like Brands Hatch or Zolder, for example. So this is going to be a very, very tough one to see here for the number 80. He's still taking his baby steps into this championship in the rookies division. Right now, leading the rookies until strategy says otherwise is Richard Claffey of CRT Racing. Actually, technically, it's Guy Rayfield. Almost forgot there with the reserves still in contention for, technically, is they a rookie position. So, yes, it is Guy Rayfield leading for the rookies at the moment until strategy says otherwise. We'll see from up in front. No consideration yet of a pit for either of the two Audis, neither that of the 991 Aston Martin of Ian Skeen. Tyler Vermack also rejects the offer to go into the pits on this lap. Looks like a lot of our front runners are going to be gunning for the same strategy we saw in the sprint race earlier on. We'll see though for Rayfield, could that change? Number 187 stays out. Claffey next in behind him. We do see quite a fair deal of damage on the back end of that Porsche. He elects to stay out. O'Driscoll follows along with him. Winkler will be more than likely in on this lap to serve that drive-through. So in terms of nearest fights on track at the moment, Barlow v Leger is in consideration. As it stands right now, they're fighting. Not farting, I hope they're not. But they're fighting, as it would happen there for... looking here, that would be Division 6th. We do have information there. I think that was... Oh, my word. Steady on there, Vinicius Goyce. Nearly into the wall. This is a very tough section of the track over Rouge and Radio, and it really does put the car to its real extremes, I'd say. 16 minutes left to go, coming up on the last quarter hour of racing. Also nearby fight still, Harris versus Beefgartner. In the pit lane now, Manuel Winkler with Audi serving that drive-through penalty. Still no information to hand here on the other two Audis from Deesh and Galaxy on a possible run to the pits. We are about to see, though, if it will emerge here in the last 15 minutes. Here on the round one feature. Down through to turn 19 and 20. Not into the pits yet for the 54. What's the call for the 55? Same story. Next in consideration then would be Ian Skeen. He's had much greater fortunes with Aston Martin here in the feature race. And down through turn 20 stays out for Mack, likely to do the same. The number 80 now cleared of his drive-through, so that will be for Manuel Winkler. We see for Guy Rayfield, currently being followed on with there. I believe that is Vinicius Goyce behind him. Yes, it is. The number 33 follows behind the number 187, down through to the bus stop chicane. Rayfield stays out. Claffey also staying out there. O'Driscoll now backing up onto him. So we are about to see the likelihood of a fight here for 6th place between John O'Driscoll and Richard Claffey. As there is still the consideration of the war of Lexus cars here, down for 8th place. Beefgartner versus Harris. Let's go to catch on board, though, with John O'Driscoll. This could be an interesting one to see here from the Ferrari. Going to catch on board, if we can, here with the number 420 in his pursuits now of higher ground. Let's see from the 420 onto the Kemmel. Richard Claffey in his iron sights off of turn 6. It's worth noting there, the back end on that Porsche, very, very loose. You also saw there from the 420, getting very handsy with the curbs now. Can actually get a pretty decent look here over the dashboard of the Ferrari. Just looking at the extent of the rear end damage on Richard Claffey's number 93 CRT Racing Porsche. Down through to Pouon. And that damage on the back end is creating this sort of pendulum effect. It's really loose over the rear axle. We've seen so far, though, for Claffey, he's been able to hold on to it. But O'Driscoll getting closer and closer here, is looking to strike. Down through to Campus. He's got the move on the inside. And there, just wraps it up nice, neat and tidy off the exit of Campus. In towards Stabilo. The Porsche's still with him here. Not close enough yet for a move back on the inside. A little bit of slip angle in most of those corners there. Whether that's a little bit of desync from Claffey or if that's a case where actually he's got just a bit of a loose back end on his Porsche. Out through the curb of Paul Frere. Up in front, you can see that Rayfield now out past Vinicius Goyce. There was a spot of bother there, I believe, for Guy Rayfield. Seeing here with John O'Driscoll. Guy Rayfield going into the pit lane, so now in goes the 187. O'Driscoll moves up to the top 5. Meanwhile, the two leading Audis, no movement into the pits just yet, neither for that of the Aston or the McLaren amongst that top 4. John O'Driscoll joins them in the top 5. Claffey stays out as well. Latest attendee to the pits, number 187, Guy Rayfield. We'll see. This is really going to play dividends into whether or not he leads in the rookies, because this is now his strategy playing out, whether he wanted to or not. It did seem like there was a bit of a struggle for him off the exit of turns 15 and 16 that dropped him in behind Vinicius Goyce, who had been following him for some time. Looking here for Harris v Beefgartner. And their fight for the longest time here for 8th is now about to upgrade to a fight for 7th. But as it happens, that gap has started to build. Yes, 1.1 seconds now, as it happens to be, between the Team FBR Lexus and the TSRC Lexus. They still represent one of the closest gaps on track, but there is the consideration soon for a possible fight of 11th here between Elias De Vos of Hispania Racing Nexus and Eurotitans Endurance's Alan Alexander, who now looks to move into that top 10. Rayfield already on his way out, but he's not going to be out in time to see that position still amongst the top 10 there, because Alexander is up now into the top 10, meaning he's out to 11th and beyond. Now actually 12th as it would be, with De Vos up and ahead. Konstantinos Chitos now up through Eau Rouge and Radion will be intercepting that 187 down the Kemmel. You can see there these two now sharing the same stretch of tarmac. Behind them is Simon Byrne with Mercedes AMG. Patrick Leger tucked in behind them was one of the early casualties in that incident between Cas van Velzen and George Todd, both of which are now out of this race. 10 minutes left to go then here in the feature on what has been a jam-packed start to things here in Season 6, Round 1 of the NLRL Sunday League powered by TRTN. .1 seconds and closing. There is a chance here for De Vos. Right now, could be moving into the lead under strategy of the rookies. Looking to take a class win on debut. Claffey stays out. As for the two Audis at the forefront of action here, only about 3.1 seconds between each other. There is still the possibility, if there is a slip up in front for Deesh, of swift interception by Galaxy. You see right now, Eurotitans have just firm command of that top 3, and we spoke last season at the end of Season 5's proceedings. We had a great chat with Ben Meredith, one of the team principals over at the Eurotitans Endurance team, or at least one of the managers for the side of their ACC division. And they have what seems to be quite a laid-back culture on their team. But what's going to happen here when they find themselves with sizable targets on their back from both the Rookies Championship, Drivers Championship, and Teams Championship? Moreover, what's going to happen when friends turn to enemies here? We have seen motorsporting rivalries go sour between drivers who used to be best of chums on the same team. I mean, look no further than the 2016 Formula 1 World Championship, Nico Rosberg versus Lewis Hamilton. They used to be good teammates at their time at Mercedes, and then once push came to shove, we started to see fractures there that have never since healed. What's going to happen here for the Eurotitans team now that they lead, now that they are at the head of the table, so to speak, when their drivers decide to drop the gloves? All will be revealed then over the course of this season. So far then, they've been working as a well-oiled machine. Ruthlessly efficient then from both the Audis at the front and the Aston Martin trailing them at the back of the podium. And for Skeen, this is a unique one to see him back to Aston Martin. It was definitely a surprising turn, given that he was starting to build up quite a decent bit of affinity to Mercedes. Moving back over to Aston, of course, the same manufacturer that he's got his one and only race win with here in the Sunday League back in Season 2 at Bathurst. Could be representing a bit of a return to formalities here for Skeen, going back to where it all started for him in his Sunday League career, in his hopes to pursue possible championships or even more race wins thereafter. O'Driscoll into the pit lane. In terms of the closest gaps on track at the moment, 1.5 seconds between Harris and Beefgartner, but even closer than them, 1.4 seconds between DeVos and Alexander. Right now, though, in the closing minutes here of the feature race, it's going rather silent. I will say, though, with that sprint race, and there was, again, a lot of hubbub surrounding whether or not these regulations would work, or whether or not there would be really enough room for what the race control team had planned, as we do see now the emergence of a new fight here. Leger versus Byrne down through Blanchimont. And I think these questions have very swiftly been answered, that this has created some of the most chaotic situations now we've seen in a long old time here on the Sunday League, going around the outside for the run into turn 19. Now the inside at turn 20. Absolute butter there from the number 9 of Patrick Leger. Smooth. We see, though, a drive-through penalty given out to Lucas Clapp for track limits just off the exit of the curb of Paul Frere. We see, though, Byrne's not yet done with Leger. Going back on the inside at La Source as we catch on with these two. Let's go to get on board with the number 9. O'Driscoll now leaves the pit lane. I don't think we're quite yet finished in this current stir of fighting between Patrick Leger and Simon Byrne. It's contact up through Eau Rouge and Radion. The Mercedes cannons the wall as the Mustang gets away. Oh my goodness, a freak accident there for these two. You saw from the start, we got on board with him, and it was there. You didn't expect the Mercedes to bog down. We already saw the back end was sliding. Cannons him out to the wall. You can see him bounce across. Oh, that's a big incident there. That is a massive, massive incident for these two. Going slow as well, out through the Kemmel. I think there was trouble in front of them for Konstantinos Chitos in his efforts with the 420. Yes, he did end up going very slow. So there was 2 incidents for the price of 1 that we didn't quite catch that second one. That is definitely looking a bit grim here for Patrick Leger. Richard Claffey now into the pit lane. Drive-through penalty given out to Vinicius Goisov, which is being served at this time. Only 5 drivers, including Manuel Winkler, left to go for a pit lane run. And of 4 of those 5, currently at the front of the field, with Deesh, Galaxy, Skeen and Vermac. Latest gap then we see here for a possible fight, 9th place, soon to be possible 8th place fight. Elias DeVos of Hispania Racing Nexus Ferrari goes toe-to-toe with Alan Alexander. He's slowly chipped away at that gap for some time to get back into fighting with that Bentley. Up at around turns 19 and 20. Byrne now in the pit lane, and it's very likely then the writing's on the wall for that Mercedes. A horrific wipeout for him on the run up through Eau Rouge, and Radion was tapped on the back end there by Patrick Leger. I don't think Leger was expecting him to go into the wall that, well, not even into the wall, sorry, to go into that corner so slowly. You could see it back on the replay, as a matter of fact, taking a look back in on that. It's right about here. You see the back end was already slipping away by the time there was contact. Going up through the hill, cannons the wall. That is a huge bounce back there off of the tyre wall. Fortunate then there weren't any other drivers nearby to them at the time. They would have been collected in the onslaught thereafter. Carlos Deesh now into the pit lane. Has led confidently in this race. Took home already a victory so far here in Spa in the sprint race. The Fake Galaxy stays out on his way up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Ian Skeen stays out. As it would happen to be the case here, Tyler Vermac also stays out. It looks like these 3 are going to be going for that last lap strategy we saw in the sprint. Very high risk involved in it, but we'll see how it comes to in the trailing end of this race. You see that Zolt Beefgartner is now among the top 5 with TSRC Esports. He's up and ahead at the moment of Michael Harris. These two keeping each other company with the two Lexus cars on this field. We mentioned it in a few other broadcasts the other day. This is just the immortal design. I don't think you really can find a suitable replacement to the RCF. It's a design that's kicked around in GT and endurance racing for 10 years, actually 11 years now it would be, being introduced in 2015. Whilst there have been rumours of a replacement coming up, it has been, I'd say, remiss to say, a very difficult solution to what do we replace the RCF with over at Lexus. And as we mentioned before, this is not the first time Lexus has made a design that they couldn't replicate. I mean, look no further than the LFA. I don't think anyone is hurrying to present their case on a better car from Lexus than that. So as it stands right now, going for that last lap strategy, the 55, the 991, and the number 8. I didn't take them for the gambling sort, but they are going to play quite an interesting hand here. Question is, does the house always win or not? We're about to find out, and I'm sure that Carlos Dish would certainly like to find out, as he's already come into the pit a moment ago, the 54. Waiting eagerly to see what happens on this fated pit stop. Fake Galaxy then will be in, otherwise it will be a penalty for him at the end of this race. The 55 into the pit lane, and coming in then will also be the 991 and the number 8. It's a huge risk involved here, especially for the one on the trailing end of it. Tyler Vermack still hunting a possible podium, but this is going to be a considerable risk played into this strategy. But we saw it in the sprint. It was fantastic to see there, and we'll see how it pans out for these three now. All of the current podium sitters are now into the pit lane for their one only run in this feature. And as they do so, the possible race leader to return, the 54, already having won in the sprint today, exits turn 16 and is onto the run in Blanchimont. Euro Titans looking at the possibility of a podium lockout in the first feature race of the season here in Season 6. Out through Blanchimont, Carlos Dish. Does he stand at the head of the pack, heading in towards turn 19 and turn 20? We are on for that final lap, having already been marked out there by Fake Galaxy. Across the line goes Carlos Dish onto that final lap. We see Galaxy awaiting his exit of the pits, drops off the jacks there, but the 54 is already coming up and around turn 1 at La Source, so making his run downhill in towards turn 2, then for the run back uphill as the 55 scrambles for the pit exit. Is he going to be close enough? No, because you can already hear the sound of that 5.2 litre screaming uphill, as already off of the limiters there went Fake Galaxy, but it's Carlos Dish back into the lead here on the last lap. Ian Skeen is still yet to be released, and so has Tyler Vermack. As I say that, Skeen's off his jacks and he's on his way out. Same story for Vermack. It was within milliseconds of one another there. And in the case of Zolt Beefgartner, coming up and around, we see for Tyler Vermack, it's trouble for the number 8, a drive-through penalty. So Zolt Beefgartner could be seeing 4th place by the end of this race here. Ian Skeen re-emerges to 3rd, giving us the scope of a Euro Titans podium lockout to start the season off, much to the dismay here of 5-Star Esports, who were so close yet so far away, and that's only been made worse by a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. A troubled start to the season then for Tyler Vermack. Zolt Beefgartner looks to be gaining the most out of it as he'll be moving up to 4th. Michael Harris could be seeing a top 5 here in the feature. Closest gap to any two drivers at the moment. John O'Driscoll versus Patrick Leger up through turn 6 and onto the Kemmel Straight here on the final lap of racing at round 1. A brilliant kickoff to the season so far then. Plenty of action, plenty of drama. We wouldn't want it any other way here on the Sunday League. And what a relief that it's back. 2 weeks too many, in my opinion. Recent troubles there for Winkler, as it would appear. He's going slow because I think he's waiting for the leader. Yes, he is. I mean, smart choice here by Manuel Winkler. It's been a troubled day for him. I think he just wants it to end sooner rather than later. Carlos Dish making his way up through Blanchimont. About to see the checkered flag first among the fray for the second time today, making his way down through the bus stop chicane. Number 54, Carlos Dish, down to the line here, won in the sprint race here in Spa, and goes double trouble for the start of the season and wins in the feature.
The leader has finished the race.
A brilliant drive then from Carlos Dish, second to none. Fake Galaxy second in this race. Ian Skeen is about to see it through to a Euro Titans podium lockout here on the feature race. The defending team's champions are on flying form then, firing on all cylinders. And if we want to do the maths on that, 28 cylinders on that podium. 2 V10s and a V8 from Euro Titans. Tyler Vermack sees the checkered flag there with an 80-second penalty due to his drive-through penalty issued on the last lap for him. Heartbreak for the number 8. Zolt Beefgartner for 5th, Michael Harris for 6th, Kyle Jenkins for 7th, Alan Alexander for 8th, and Elias DeVos wins in the rookies on the feature here in Spa. So 2 different winners in the rookies. And what a drive it's been. You see on the podium there for the rookies, Guy Rayfield with McLaren and Richard Claffey with Porsche. On their debuts here, make a podium out of their first go-around and has seemingly discovered levitation. Well, he's worked wonders before with that Porsche, so all the best to him there for a podium on his first feature. Your winner then, Carlos Dish, 2 times on the trot then, in both the sprint and the feature. And to celebrate, he has decided, I imagine, here to murder Ian Skeen. Unfortunate there for the Aston Martin. You see then, this is the Euro Titans parade, or what would have been the Euro Titans parade. I think it's more the slow-motion Euro Titans themed crash, but I think that's what we're having off of these drivers here. Celebrating then, Carlos Dish up the Rouge and Radion, joined by Ian Skeen. And you can see there, Alan Alexander among the top 10 from the back of the field, and has also decided to murder Ian Skeen. God, Ian Skeen's really not having a nice day here at the checkered flag. But I would, having P3 with Aston Martin. What a drive it's been for him there. Return to form for the Season 2 Bathurst winner. Well, what a way to kick the season off here in Season 6 of the Sunday League. Our first ever time as title sponsors of a championship, and it has given us quite the bit of racing. The new structure then giving plenty of opportunities over to the drivers today. Carlos Dish took every single one of them in his stride to a double win on the start of his full season drive here in Season 6. A brilliant bout then for the Swiss talent and last season's rookies champion. So taking a look at the road ahead for us here at the end of racing today here in round 1 of the Sunday League. At the road ahead, keep pulling up that graphic for some reason. As we see now, our next stop will take us onto the new sprint layout on the 24th as we head to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for round 2 of the championship. That's all from us here on TRTN. What a race, and what a double header of races that's been to kick the season off. Welcome back, the Sunday League. We've missed you long enough. That's all from us here. Take care.